Our favourite time of the week is when we talk to Megyn Kelly. She's in the United States and we talk an awful lot of politics because there's a lot of it around. Lovely to see you, rock star.
Great to be here.
So, about a week's time, we will be right on top of what is supposed to be the Trump-Harris debate. They say it's locked, but then it seems like it's not. I don't think it's about microphones. I think it's about whether Harris can bring paper notes with her. What do you think, a week out from when they're supposed to debate?
It's just such nonsense. They're going to do it. They're going to debate. It's too tight a race not to do it. Both sides think that they can win, that they can beat the other one. So, I guess we're just going to have these, pissing contests between now and then about mics or notes or what have you. The notes thing is absolutely absurd. Technically, she's already been denied the ability to bring notes on there. The test is easier if it's open book. We all know that. But she's running to be president. She's going to have to be facile with policy without her little notepad next to her at all times. So I don't think she's going to be allowed to bring notes in. I actually think Trump will throw down over that one. And the mic thing is just a reason to keep attention going. Trump loves to have drama around these debates. So I think that's why he's continuing it. And she just wants to needle him and make him look like he's changing the rules, even though she was the one who wanted to change them from mics off while the other person's talking as a default. Anyway, it seems so small ball and annoying, but I do think the debate will go off. And then all eyes will be on the candidates to see how they handle what are likely to be very tough questions for Trump.
Well, yeah, exactly. As we saw as the little preview in the CNN meeting of human beings, hardly interview,
Don't get me started.
Yeah,
Don't get me started.
And well done, Washington Free Beacon, when they turned around and compared. Here's how you ask a tough one if you want to, and here's how clearly when you didn't, right?
Yeah.
Now, Harris, of course, thinks that one of the ways she's going to get through the next little while is by doing a bus tour. Now, fascinating here about the logic of the bus tour. Now, anyone who remembers 20 years ago, the Straight Talk Express and a bus tour that John McCain took across the country, that's not what she's doing. What she's doing is, yes, getting on a bus, but it goes from small venue to small venue to small venue because they can control the venue, and then they have these big rallies where no doubt people turn up. But again, when I see this stuff, I don't see interactions with people. I see this as proof of life, but making sure that the risk is non-existent. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. I think that's smart. And if she were my candidate, that's exactly what I'd be doing. I mean, you saw her in that interview with CNN. She is not good on her feet. She's not facile. She really isn't. She doesn't really know her facts. She lies. She meanders. I joked the other day on my show that she went from being this person who seems drunk all the time to seeing absolutely hungover. It was very humbling. It was very humbling when my niece saw me. I mean, there's no in between. The real Kamala, I think, is the cackling Kamala. And so they've given her some sort of a depressant, I think, to get rid of the cackle because they realize how off-putting it is. They tried to rebrand it as brat. Maybe that worked with some 20-year-olds, but no sober 50-year-old thinks it's brat, nor do they even know what brat is. So now they've tried to do sober Kamala, where she's just depressed and kind of sad all the time, which undermines their joyful message. But they got to choose which one they want, and they've put the money down on sober Kamala because that's how she came out with CNN. So that's what I guess she's going to be on the campaign trail now. She's going to be the serious, sober one we can trust to pull us out of Afghanistan without any deaths of troops. Just ask Joe Biden. Nobody died. That's the position they're in, and I just don't think that's inspirational. You see Trump. What does he do? Yes, he does the rallies. We've talked about all those. But he does these stops where he goes into like a 7-Eleven or he goes into some random restaurant or some donut shop or what have you. And the people love him. Because the thing about Trump is, unless you're a diehard Democrat, he's very charming and you will find him charming and he will smile at you and he will, what was the Jane Austen line? He will smile and make love to us all. That's kind of how he approaches any interaction. And people feel it. So Kamala Harris doesn't have the ability to do that. So I think they're absolutely right. Keep her in tight, controlled settings, on prompter, keep it quick. Don't give her a chance to meander or cackle. And let's see if we can keep that rolling for 2 months right into the presidency.
Now, at the very heart of the thresholds at which different candidates are held are two stories involving the military. I've walked everyone through in laborious detail the lies that were told about what happened when Donald Trump was invited by some of the families of the 13 who died in Afghanistan. And you have done phenomenal work showing that people who served with Tim Walz, that when he decided to pull the pin, run for Congress rather than lead them into battle, one story goes for a week, and even as well researched, multiple people, multiple sources sitting in front of a camera, the media will choose to ignore. But the joy of the journalism that you practice and the platforms that you are is that millions of people will see that story. Talk about a double standard, right? One is absolute bullshit, absolute A-grade bullshit. The other one is true. And guess which one they're not focusing on?
But that story at Arlington is the Democrats stepping on a rake. I mean, what a stupid thing for them to try to make an issue out of, right? Given how vulnerable she is on the issue of veterans and the military, like this was just absolute folly by her team. It should have been a 2-day story that they put on other people like surrogates, not having to do with her. But she weighed in directly, and now she's getting the rake right in her face, as she ought to, since she hasn't given them any sort of dignity or respectful goodbye or even paid her respects in any meaningful way to the families. And they were ready for this. So, you know, the media is 100% on her side. So I guess from that standpoint, they took a calculated risk that the media would run cover for her, which it is. But I really think this is a net negative story for Kamala Harris. It's only brought back into the forefront the fact that she doesn't give two figs about the 13 servicemen and women who died at Abbey Gate. And she wasn't at the dignified transfer. She didn't show up at Arlington. Trump's been there. Trump was there at Arlington, and he was there beforehand. He's met with the families now for years and paid his respects over and over and over, giving them unlimited time. We heard that from one of the families at his convention. So in any event, there's that story. The thing about Walz and his stolen valor, it's not going away. And so you're right, the media will ignore the fact that these 4 men, 2 of whom actually do hold the rank of retired command sergeant major, which is as high as you can get in the non-commissioned officer front, came out to say he's a coward. Tim Walz is a coward who cut and ran and abandoned his men. And that he's been doing this stolen valor when it comes to his rank, when it comes to his story about why he didn't go to Iraq, and when it comes to whether he served it in war, whether it was Afghanistan or Iraq, for years. And that these military guys have been going to him privately behind the scenes to say, please stop. You're embarrassing yourself and you're disrespecting us. And he wouldn't do it. So the media will try to ignore that story. But I just think it has legs, and that the independents who are in these critical swing states are going to see the clips that were on my show. These guys have been out there, some of them individually, the clips that have been out there, and they know there's something about Tim Walz that's disrespectful, dishonorable when it comes to the military. And that's a problem. Tim Walz, it's basically handicapped him from being able to tout his military record on the stump. And that's a problem for him because J.D. Vance can still do that. And the American people still hold Afghanistan against this administration. Now, will they hold it against Kamala Harris? They should. She said she was last in the room and so on. Trump's got to remind people of that over and over and over again. But he's been hobbled on bragging about his military service because these guys refuse to remain silent.
And that's what's interesting about, between now and election, through the debate, all the rest of it, about how much she owns of the administration that she's in versus what she throws under the bus. I thought the idea that she was out there arm in arm, cuddles and everything with Biden on the public holiday, yes, unions, all the rest of it, but still, any proximity to him, you would think a little bit of, a bit of Joe gets on you, a little bit of kryptonite, which you don't want. But she seems to still be fine swimming in the same lane.
I mean, really, what choice does she have? Let's see if she brings him to Michigan. I'll wait. Right? She brings him to Pennsylvania, where he grew up, and not far from, it's sort of the working class vote, right, that she's trying to get in the unions. So I know, but he's a liability to her, and she knows it. There's a reason she strategically deployed him in one state only so far. And what we're hearing is that she may now try to distance herself from certain aspects of the Biden presidency, including Afghanistan. Well, let's see about that. I mean, we realize she wasn't commander in chief, but she can't both have the benefit of trying to act like she was tough guy number 2 in there, last person in the room saying, go for it, Joe. Love your plan. Let's do it exactly as you want. And by the way, she's another person who said it was a success, right? That it was handled brilliantly. She can't both take those positions and now say, oh, the truth is it was handled horribly and I had nothing to do with it. I think even this media will not let her get away with that, but we are hearing reports she's about to try to draw distance on Afghanistan. The economic plan, she's already embraced. I mean, she's already, the Wall Street Journal had an article last week talking about her tax plan. It's exactly like Joe Biden's. She's proposing all the same things he did, which is going to be an enormous new tax burden on most Americans, everyone earning more than $400,000. And that means small business owners are about to see their taxes go through the roof, which means people will get laid off. Prices will go up. And that's Joe Biden's tax plan. Bidenomics, she's already endorsed it. So she's in a pickle when it comes to the most important issue in this campaign. What she's doing instead right now is going hard on abortion to the point where it's actually becoming the number 1 issue again in some polling. She's doing an effective job of driving the issue over and over again. And you saw Trump absolutely flailing this past 3 days on the issue. It's like he hasn't settled his position. He's throwing darts at a board like, well, maybe it'll help if I'm pro-choice now. And then his conservative base is like, what are you doing? We wanted a pro-choice. We would have stuck with Mitt Romney. We don't need you. Anyway, Mitt Romney says he's pro-life. But that's what she's doing. She's leaning hard into abortion. And we'll see whether that works because this issue, this campaign is turning into a female versus male contest. And women in America are very, very motivated by the desire to take out unborn life.
Well, we've talked about this before, right? That if it's about abortion, then she's going to win and she's going to win handily. But something that's going to help in terms of how abortion plays into the election is that there's going to be state referendum, as we call them here, ballot initiatives, as you call them there. And
Arizona and Nevada.
And Florida. Now, Florida should be won by the Republicans by 20 points. But polling on abortion, well, they're pro a very different system than the one the government has in place. So if swing states, and if Democrats want to win, they want to get it into as many swing states as possible because that is going to be a huge determinant. Huge.
I cannot believe that in Florida there would not be split ticket votes. That maybe they'll go and they'll vote for a more relaxed abortion policy, but they'll vote Republican at the top of the line. Florida's red now. It's not purple. If she pulls out a win in Florida, then it's going to be a landslide Harris victory. But nothing in the polling is showing us that she's poised to even win, never mind win by a landslide. So I don't see that happening. But it's a very smart strategy. This is how George Bush won re-election in 2004. They put gay marriage on the ballot in many of these swing states. And in particular, black voters were against it and came out to vote against it. And that's how he won re-election. It was Karl Rove re-election strategy. It won for the Democrats again in the midterms in 2022, post-Dobbs. And it's likely to drive some votes this election too. And if that happens, then we're just going to have to accept that here in America, we are still dealing with the post-Dobbs, which is the case that reversed Roe, fallout, and that Republicans may not be winning any elections until that fallout has settled and abortion policy has now been resettled by the states in a way that Democrats who are really motivated by this issue will rush to the polls to weigh in on. I mean, that's just a natural consequence of Dobbs. It's the way it had to happen. Dobbs had to happen. Roe was a lie. It was made up law. There is nothing in the Constitution that speaks to the stuff it said. And so in a way, the system's playing out exactly as it must. But Donald Trump needs to have a very clear message on this. And clearly he's rattled because he came out with absolute nonsense on Friday that was kind of alarming to see. One wonders what his internal polls are showing in places like Florida. The obvious conclusion is it's not good. And now he's swung his messaging back toward the more pro-life position, which also makes me think, is that good? Because clearly you're so rattled by whatever told you need to sound like you're a pro-choice. So now you haven't solved it. So where are we? What is he seeing that we're not?
Well, exactly right. And when you don't have either a clear moral, religious, philosophical, whatever clear view on the issue, then you're not really able to fight the debate. If you are just in a scenario where, well, I need these people, but then I can't piss off these people, then you know, they crush you because the side that's coming at you has a clear vision and all the way. Last one.
Well, not only that, Paul. So it's what she's doing. It's what she's doing right now on fracking and, you know, single payer health insurance, you know, taking away private health insurance, and we could go down the list. She's just flipping all her positions because she realizes her actual views are too abhorrent to actually win election in America in a national race. And so how does it help Donald Trump to become the flip-flopper that she is on an issue as dicey and tricky as abortion? You cannot win as a Republican candidate for the presidency unless you are pro-life. That's just the way it is in the United States of America. The problem for Donald Trump is, I've said this a long time, he's not. I don't believe he's pro-life. He's pro-choice. He's been pro-choice his whole life. He understood what I just said, so he said he was pro-life when he ran for the presidency. He governed like he was pro-life. He put pro-life justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, which is how he got Dobbs. And now that this has become such a dicey issue, he's kind of, I believe, going back to his real feelings. I think this is probably the sincere Trump saying 6 weeks is too short and I'm not voting for that. And he's forgotten there is an important base in the Republican Party that they're not going to vote for her, but they might stay home. This issue is so important to them.
How do you feel about all of the fake accents that Kamala comes up with? It's very Hillary Clinton, isn't it?
I'm so grateful to her for them. I mean, what kind of a race would this be? Thank God we have characters like this in the news, Paul. What would you gotta laugh, right?
Yes,
it can't be all like the horrors of, you know, abortion and Gaza. Like, we need our levity, and she is the perfect vehicle. God love her. I don't know what to expect next. I'd love to see like her meet the Queen. Is she gonna go full British royal family? I haven't heard that one. I mean, she's got like, you know, the Indian roots. Maybe we could hear some of that. Let's hear the Indian accent. I don't know what we're going to get next, but I await it with bated breath because the mashups of her switching, or as the New York Times or whatever the publication was, like her effective code switching, they love it. If Donald Trump did that in front of a black audience, tried to make himself sound like he had like an urban accent, he'd be getting called a racist for days. But she can do it even though she doesn't talk like that. I can't wait to see what she does next. She's very good at it, and it's highly entertaining.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've got to laugh because otherwise it's all too much. You're the best. We love you. We want everyone to check it out, the Megyn Kelly Show on YouTube, or obviously if you're in the States, Sirius XM. Lovely to see you, mate.
Thank you, Paul. Till next week.